Hey guys, it's... One second. Tangy. Alright. So I was thinking for the video today I would be able to, maybe start drawing Littlest Pet Shop, an ongoing toy line that really just boils down to, what if animal big head? While starting production in the early 90s under Kenner Toys, most of us are familiar with Hasbro's iteration from the early 2000s. From this point onwards, the pets have been sorted by generation, though from my understanding this has largely been a community project. And so the divide in generation shifts a little depending on source, with some big time markers staying consistent. That brings us to this video. The current generation, Generation 7, a reboot brought on by nostalgia-based company Basic Fun. I originally thought the gap between LPS productions went on longer than what it was, only 4 years, but Littlest Pet Shop had found itself dying off for a while over its later generations and style shifts, and without seeing them in stores consistently, I and probably other more casual fans had it fall off our radars entirely. As far as I was concerned, Littlest Pet Shop had died off by Generation 4, and I was falling out of the demographic as it was. Now, I grew up with LPS. I kept all of mine from childhood, and that cumulative total was around 400, which I still currently have. Even while I exited the demographic for these pets, I kept an eye on them when they came up in stores, and I especially kept an eye out at swap meets to try and find some of the generations I was a little more fond of. That being said, my scope of LPS overall is not going to be airtight. This is meant to be kind of a general audience video, and first video kind of ever, so the LPS experts out there, forgive me for my transgressions. I know that you know more than me. Please do not come to my house. Up to this point, I've been assuming that you read the title, but in case you've forgotten, this is going to be a redesign video and not a history video. I am fascinated by Littlest Pet Shop history, but there are much better videos on the platform for that. And while the LPS heads out there have very good reasons for having mixed feelings about Generation 7, I'm gonna not try to be too mean. That being said, I think Generation 7 could use some work. This is fully my hubris at play, but when I see the toys made for children, and I gaze sorrowfully at my unused illustration degree, I am given a call to action. Generation 7 is currently known for its poor plastic quality, reuse of old pet designs, which are often the better ones of the wave, and massive foreheads of their custom models, which I just find to be an interesting design choice. Now, I'm starting with the first blind box series. This, admittedly, was a mistake. I don't actually have beef with the first wave, as it's fairly simple. The later waves are a little busier and run into more quality control issues, but my need for order has taken me to start at the beginning. So with that, some ground rules. 1. I want to keep the spirit of the pet, otherwise it would just be a new pet with that mold. That will mean some of the tweaks are subtle. I'm not trying to Has-Been Hotel redesign this toy, it would not be that productive. I do get carried away at some points though, and bend the rules a little bit, especially towards the end. Rule 2, I'm keeping the Generation 7 theming. Each pet of this gen has a little shape incorporated into the design, like stars or hearts, that sort of thing. I can revise the position and shape a little bit, but it needs to be in there. I'm trying to design these pets like I'm pitching them as designs. They have to fit the intent. However, I am bringing back the Generation 2 eye shapes with these designs because I think it fits. So I'm gonna have both of those concepts in there at the same time. And rule 3, since I'm treating these like real designs, they have to be practical. Sorry. The blind box pets are like $3. They have limited colors for a reason and are designed kind of around that principle. This is a rule I might bend more often and break at times, but I want them to still look somewhat possible. So when you consider designs I'm about to show you, consider that they won't be the perfect version of that mold. They're supposed to be color and function tweaks, mainly. In the future, I might want to go more all out for something, but this isn't that video. Also, if you like a design for what it is, that's great. The designers behind these aren't just making choices for me, they're trying to appeal more widely, so I'm trying to somewhat capture that too. I still really like the changes I made, but they might not always improve the design for everybody. Anyways, enough prefacing, we enter the battlefield. Our first panda of 2. Honestly, a solid enough design. The game here gets a little fun when the pets are already good because it becomes challenging. My main note is literally just that she's a normal panda. As somebody who loves more of the naturalistic LPS, however, it doesn't really strike me. For her redesign, I went for softer, more saturate tones. Her heart is a little more obvious and stylized, and I'm sticking to the Gen 2 eye shapes. Made the green warmer in her eyes so they look less cold. Kinda simple fixes here. Alright, first pet I don't really think hits. I get the intent, but the colors really don't blend like I'd like them to. The stars also don't really read either. She looks like she opened a middle schooler's makeup kit. And her eyes, being the color of her hair, means more lost information. The redesign for her is mostly a subtle color tweak again. Getting the fur and hair to agree a little bit more, but making sure her eyes stand out and match her bows as a secondary color. Made the star more obvious and tried making more of an intentional makeup look. They're still both going to Claire's together for a lobotomy though, they're best friends. Now, this mold I originally thought was original to Gen 7. Instead though, it only went through 2 prints in generations 3 and 4 and fell fully off my radar growing up. I don't like its head as much as the more classic horse model, but I do like its big old Clydesdale-esque feet. For the redesign, I leaned more naturalistic, included more gradients, because I'm a sucker for them in the older gens, even if they're a little rare in Generation 7. I liked the heart included in the spots conceptually, so just tweak that a little bit, and gave a little nose stripe because I like those. Sorry, horse girls, I cannot tell you which facial marking this one is called. The color point cat. Another pet that really just is fine, but could have had a little bit more energy. I like her, she seems polite. I know I should be trash talking these probably, but they're neat. Series 3 blind boxes are going to be the ones that I think really turn the tables for me. For the changes, I moved her flower away from her ears to be a little bit more readable. More of my beloved color changes and gradients, and made the eyes work a little bit better with the colors. It's gonna be a lot of color tweaks from me.
You look very handsome today. Thanks.
We have a lot of these, so I'll be going a bit fast. Peek out with no colored hooves. The changes I made were to cater to me specifically. More gradients, who would have thought? Also not pea colored. I moved the bolts to flow a little bit better, and you'll notice eyes I went for the tapered look for the bolts. Unfortunately kept his scary blue eyes. Honestly, I thought I'd hate this guy more, but I own one and I like that it's a foul little FNAF security breach looking abomination. It charms me. My changes were really just more color tweaks. Leaned into the glam rock look, I guess. Complete with William Afton purple for the eyes. Admittedly, this is my favorite of the series. I love seeing the Otter mold used again and she's adorable. However, that means I had a challenge. This is where I start going off the rails, a little bit with tweaks. We are escalating a little too much into 2015 DeviantArt adopts, but my legacy is written in blood. The rules are being bent more from here, just expect that. I cannot explain the complex that I have. I really have begun to kind of despise LPS rabbits, especially of this mold specifically. I have no quarrel with rabbits in real life. I worked with 8 rabbits at my last job. However, I feel like half of my LPS collection is rabbits. This one did not plead for its life well enough for me to spare it. It is miserable and a little bit boring to me. For the edits, I leaned on the snowy look they were going for and expanded a bit. You can tell 8 pets in I was getting sick of small tweaks and added too much printed detail, but who cares? I can at least tolerate the Jack Frost rabbit somewhat now. I did change the little snowflake shape though, because I kind of hate how it shows up printed so small. We are only halfway through. I hope you aren't feeling the same sense of dread I started experiencing by this point. Anyways, the quail. This is single-handedly the most disrespectful basic fun mold to me. Do any of you know what a quail looks like? Are we trying any more to pretend words mean anything? Not only did they mold this felon to be a quail, but they made sure to color it nothing like one. I guess I can't either at this point. My main change was to make it not look like Johnny Test. From there, I color tweaked. If this was a mold repairing video, it wouldn't even be the same animal anymore. But we are leaving the mold the same.
Oh, I'm on a boat with a couple of wackos.
Unless I'm completely blind, this does a really bad job of incorporating its shape. Boring Spaniel, what can I really say beyond that? I really like its little boat though. Almost completely saves it for me. That's how easily convinced I am by a little blue boat. Just look at it. I tried giving it more personality and a gradient. If they weren't going to slap a huge star on it, I wasn't going to either. But the eye saved just a little bit. Just imagine the stars on my ears are more obvious. Now, as a kid, I really fond of the pelican mold. I have an appreciation for it now, but this right here is going to make me backslide. If you're wondering where the shape is on this thing, it's on its crest. My edits here were to try and push this guy a bit. Really incorporate the shapes in a more interesting way. I don't know if I even did that, but at least I like the colors more. Another one that's fine, but for a reboot, we're seeing too many uninteresting designs. There's a backlog of hundreds of pets, so I'm sure brown corgi isn't changing the game. However, I did also just make brown corgi. I tried expanding upon the colors and markings a bit. If she's gonna be royal, she should feel royal, at least. I love the chameleon mold for starters. This angle isn't doing the design full justice, since I know the main colors are on the top of its head, but this design is already a little too close to the original chameleon. The tweaks here were mostly to set it apart. Made it warmer colored and added to the markings a bit. Not too much to say.
Shark face!
The shark! I love this mold too. Unfortunately, another boring design. So let's change that. My new shark is just a smidgen more detailed, with a bolt on the face where it can be seen a little bit better. That is literally it.
My little pony, my little pony.
The Anteater. I deeply hate this one. As somebody with one of the older anteaters, I find it deeply unappealing. I don't need every animal to look like its real counterpart, but I can't help but feel like this feels like a later gen design. It also looks like they ripped off Pinkie Pie. For the redesign, I went a little silly with it. Hammered in the star motif and got rid of the horrible green eyes. It's a little over the top, but the original design had really pissed me off. Getting close to the end. Tried making this one similar to the other pandas redesign, since those seem to match in the originals. I really liked how the edits came out, and went for a bit of a Valentine's feeling.
Mr. Electric, send him to the principal's office and have him expelled!
The walrus. One of the pets I kind of hoped not to get in the set. An underwhelming design. When showing my friend this design, I was told it emanated Ice Princess from Shark Boy and Lava Girl. That is the only thing I'm going to say about this design now. Finally, at the end. And another underwhelming pet, especially considering the other tiger they rolled out this same gen. Makes sense, since it's a cheaper blind box one, but I'm still going to be a little extra about it, considering by this point I had technically colored in 35 little animals. I tried going for a spotted big cat of ambiguous variety this time. Warmer colors than Nyx the White. I wanted something we hadn't had yet, though it ended up way different than its source material. Still fun to make. Okay, I really don't know with a full-time job when next drawing another 18 animals, but if this is all I can give you, I hope that you at least had a mildly interesting time. If for some reason I'm mentally ill enough to do this again, I might try tackling the later blind box series. We've got at least 2 more at the time of recording. Who knows? If you like this video, do whatever. Lord knows this channel isn't currently monetized anyway. So, thanks for watching. Fart. Bye.